Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the shop. My name is Brian. Today I've got my first real project for this YouTube channel. It's gonna be pretty cool. Since I'm from California, I'm gonna try and carve the California state flag. Not minus the star and all the words, just the bear. But I'm cheap, so I've got this piece of scrap wood here. This is meant, it's like redwood, pine, something. It's pretty cheap wood from Home Depot. It's made for just building houses. It's good structural stuff, not a normal woodworking wood. Like this entire piece was under 20 bucks for the whole thing. It's just scrap laying around. I'm gonna chop a piece off and try and carve a bear. Okay, so I got my pattern glued on, and I've attached this bolt into the bottom so I can put it onto this carving arm that I have, and then I can screw it down here and I can adjust it and it holds it still while I'm working. Okay, to start out, I'm just gonna work on the 2D profile using probably the scariest tool I own, the chainsaw blade on an angle grinder, which should go pretty fast. I don't know how this will turn out, but if you're saying it turned out okay. Little tip, if you get bored in the shop, get yourself some Bluetooth hearing protection. It makes working long times a lot easier, especially when it gets boring, like if you're sanding. I'll put a link to these in the description along with all the other tools I'm using. Okay, here we go. I put on goggles with a mask because this thing's a lot dustier than I expected. But so I've kind of got the general rough in with the chainsaw blade. I think that's about as much as I can do with that tool, at least at the moment, until I start doing this axis. So I think right now I'm gonna put these areas inside. I'm just gonna get a drill and just drill all the way through. For these inside areas between the legs, I'm just gonna take this drill bit, doesn't really matter what size, I just take the big one. I'm just gonna kind of drill in all the spaces, and then I'll be able to get a tool in there when I'm using the rotary carver. I don't actually know what I'm doing here. I'm just making up as I go along. So, there's probably a better way to do this, but this is what I thought of. So now I've roughed in these pencil lines for the top view. This is nowhere near accurate, but it's just give me a guide so I can remove some material. And this will be, once again, using the angle grinder chainsaw blade. I'm going to switch from the chainsaw blade to this tungsten carbide blade, which is a little less aggressive, and try to get this a little bit better shape and start looking more like a bear, because the motor doesn't look like a bear at all. I've got lines better drawn in. I'm just going to try and bring everything down to that line for working on this profile, which, yeah, that doesn't look like a bear. But this is, I don't know, it's kind of starting to look like one. I'm just going to work out this part, get the head down. I think I'll leave the back for now, and then I'll start like recessing this leg, and then this area in the middle here. Okay, I've finished everything I can do with the angle grinder. It's getting too small at this point. So now, before I go into the actual carving, I'm going to try and remove from this area, like this leg, you know, the other side, so there's a big hole there. So I'm just going to take a Forster bit and just kind of bore that out and do the same thing on the other side. Now I've got these areas drilled out on both sides. I've got my pattern roughly drawn in. So now I'm going to switch to the rotary tool. And I got this new carbide burr. If you're interested, it's this one. I'll put a link to it in the description. So I'm just going to take this and see what happens. Throughout this video, you've probably seen me wearing this thing, which is a cheap Harbor Freight mask. I've been using it to keep all the dust out, because one of those disposable respirators, they're not very good. But this thing's not the most comfortable. It kind of restricts your breathing and it leaves a big line around your face. So I have finally upgraded to an RZ mask. Not a sponsor in any way. I just really like it. It has a replaceable filter inside, and it just velcros on like that. It's a whole lot more comfortable and you can breathe much more easily. I'll put a link to it in the description with all the other tools I'm using for this. This project's taking a little longer than I expected. You can kind of track the days by watching my shirt change. This is where I have it so far. It looks like a bear from the side. It doesn't so much from the back. I still need to isolate the legs. So I'm just going to go back in with the rotary burr, the carbide tungsten tar glide. Just doing this all eyeballing it. My only reference is like this picture right here. Okay, so the burr wasn't quite working fast enough for some parts, so I've switched to a flat disc on an angle grinder. It's just basically stacked sandpaper. This is 120 grit, it just happens to be what I have. So right now I'm trying to bring down the width this way. Just trying to just recess this in, get it closer to the general shape, and then I'm going to go back to the burr and get the finer detail in. I've got a pretty good general shape down. Still have the legs are a bit square, and also the base is a little high in some places. I think at the moment I'm going to go in with angle grinder with the tungsten carbide. I'm going to take down this area and expose where the feet will be. And I'm going to go back in with the tungsten carbide burr. There it is. And I'm going to make the legs a little skinnier, bring them closer to general shape. Okay, so I pretty much got this down as much as I can with this big round bit, this tungsten carbide bit. So I'm going to switch now to this high-speed steel, tool steel burr. It's a little smaller. I'm going to try and get a little more detail in. Get the face, I think the face is a little fat, and I thought the snout is a little wide. I'm going to work on the feet, get the legs down a bit closer to accurate. And I'm going to try and get this belly area a little more rounded. So I got it roughed in a little bit more. Head's looking a lot better. Got a reference picture. Can't really see it. Over here I've got a bear reference picture. Oh, it's just a grizzly bear. Alright, so I'm going to move on to... where's the camera? This little guy. What's that? Focus. Whatever, you can imagine. It's a tungsten carbide burr that's a lot smaller. I'm going to try and get more details in, maybe hollow out the ears. And I think I'm in the final stretch of the roughing out phase, and then I can go on to maybe putting some fur on it and then painting it. I think I'm almost done with the carving. Okay, so I've got this down to a bear shape. I don't think there's much more I can do with the rotary carver, because at this point, with the small bit, I'm starting to more just put holes in it than actually change the shape. So now I'm going to I've got this strip of 120 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to run over the entire thing, smooth it out, round some of the edges. Like some of the legs, they're a little square in some places. I'm going to try and round out those edges. Maybe get the snout a little rounder, fix up the ears just with sandpaper. And then after that, I'm going to go back in with the rotary tool, and I think I'm going to try and do fur. And then put the eyes and the nose in. And I'm going to see if I can do claws. I'm not sure if this wood it's good enough for the resolution of the claws that I want. So at the moment I've got kind of feet. I'm going to see if I can try and get a little bit of a claw in. I'm also going to try and clean up this. I've got these weird divots in here. Okay, it's sanded a bit because there's still a lot of divots in it, but I'm pretty sure that'll be fine when I go over it and do the fur. It should just blend right in. And then the ground, I'm just going to keep it rough. It's like he's walking on rocks or something. It may actually roughen up this area a bit. A little while ago on Instagram, I saw a video that looked completely fake, where someone was using an air compressor to balance a screwdriver in midair and it was like spinning. And so I wanted to try that. Let's see if it works. There's a break from the bear. Get back to the bear in a second. Alright, here it goes. so this base, much too square, looks unnatural to me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the angle grinder with the carbide burr, and I'm just gonna knock down the sides, make it look a little more like rocks or just dirt. Make it look like he's actually walking on like maybe a little hill or something. I'm not quite sure. We'll see what it turns out to be. I'm just gonna freehand it. What I've tried to do is just take away all the sharp edges pretty much and try and make it look a little more natural. It kind of like rock, or sometimes I put some steps in it, undercuts, try to take away the straight lines of it. So now it looks a little bit more like rock and less like a brick. I'm just gonna hit it with some sandpaper, and then the base is done. So I got the shape of the barrel roughed out. I've got the base turned into a more natural shape, so it doesn't look like just a brick that the bear's standing on. So now it's time for the detail. So I'm gonna do fur. I've never carved fur before. I've sculpted fur in this. I did a clay sculpture of the Niffler a few years ago, and I have carved feathers into this loon, and I have carved scales, kind of like scale-ish, into this velociraptor head right here. I did a couple of test pieces, what I found works best. I'm just gonna take this bit right here, and just use the corners of this. I'm just gonna go over the entire thing. I'll pull up a picture of a grizzly bear so I can see what direction the fur goes on each part of the body. And then after that, I'm gonna come in with a little needle tip, little pointy bit, and I'm gonna do the nose, the mouth, the eyes, and maybe some claws. And then after that, it's time to paint. Okay, I've got fur. And I fixed up the face a little bit. Kinda got eyes. I'll fix that with paint. But carving is done. Give me a closer look in here. Got some fur. Kept it a little uneven. I think I got the direction right. The face doesn't quite have as much fur, but the fur on Bear's face is really thin, so I think it'll work. So finally, after way too much carving, it is time to paint this thing. Got the fur in. I even got some claws, kind of. And they look good from far away. This is gonna be like a 5-10 foot bear. So what I'm gonna do, I've got this primer. It's just a house primer, nothing special about it. I'm just gonna plaster this whole thing in primer. This is going to, for one, prime for paint, but it's also gonna fill in all the little imperfections, all the really little ones from the carving process. No special techniques or brushes here. I'm using house paint because I'm cheap and don't want to go buy more paint, and I have house paint lying around. I've got this all primed. It's looking a lot better. I could just leave it here, and I've made a polar bear, but I'm going for a grizzly since this is the bear from the California flag. So if you're like me and are really impatient when painting between coats, I don't like waiting. There's a little trick that I learned from Adam Savage's YouTube videos. Just take a hairdryer. Got this for like $1 at a thrift store. Just hit it with a hairdryer and the paint dries like twice as fast. With the hairdryer trick, the primer's completely dry to the touch in like 10 minutes. So now I'm gonna try and paint this to look like a grizzly bear. I'm just gonna use house paints. So I've got this kind of reddish brown, I've got a black, got like a light gray, I've got white, and this dark gray green. I'm gonna mix them together and try and get like a grizzly bear color, and then maybe some kind of like stone dirt color. It may not seem like I have a lot of options here for color. You can actually get a surprising number of colors with just these few colors. For example, my Velociraptor, which I'll cut in right here, you can see all the different colors. That's from like 3, 4, 5 different colors of house paint that I mixed together. I was able to get a great color variation. I ended up with this pretty nice brown for my base coat. It's a mixture of like a brickish red, not bright red, some black, a little bit of white, and actually a little bit of green too. Okay, so I'm just gonna start brushing this on. This is just the base coat. So I'll be adding some more color on top of this. Just trying to get some variation so it's not all monotone. Now I've got the base coat on for the bear. Now I'm gonna mix up some kind of stony color and go over the base. Then after I get the ground colored, I'm gonna go back over, put in some light spots in the bear, some dark spots, put a little contrast in, since bears are not one solid color. And then I'll also put some contrast into the rocks. Using all the exact same colors, now I have this like stony color. All the exact same colors, just in different amounts. I'm gonna paint the base with this now. So the base coat's on. Okay, so I didn't quite think this through right. I put the light color down first instead of the dark one, but it should still work. So I've mixed up a darker gray. I just took this color and added black to it. And I've also watered it down. So I'm gonna just brush this on, and then I'm gonna try and wipe it off with a paper towel and leave it in the low spots. Just brush it on like that. And I'm gonna come with a paper towel. Just wipe it off. Which leaves it in the low spots. Gives it a little more, yeah, this is working. Just gives it a little more contrast. So it's not one solid color, since nothing in nature is one solid color. Not sure if you can really tell the difference from this angle. There's like after, before, after. I've got the base done. I'm really liking how that turned out. Now I need to add a bit more color to the bear. So I've mixed up this, which is a lighter shade of this, and I'm going to try and brush it onto just the top of the fur in some places. That worked pretty well. Not sure if you can see the difference on camera. I'm going to paint in eyes, her nose, and some claws. Really close, it doesn't quite look right, but if you back up, it just gives a little bit of character, and now you can tell it's actually a bear and it looks more alive. So as I thought, it looks a little better from a little farther away. So now I just need to, I'm going to hit it with a clear coat just to protect the paint. I need to take this bolt out that I'm using to hold it onto the carving stand, sand the bottom flat because the bottom's kind of ugly, and I get to sign it. This was actually supposed to be my second video on this channel. I started this at the beginning of May, and it took me about 3 months now to get this bear done. Maybe over a day of carving in total hours, but that time was definitely worth it. So, if you like this video, please click that like button, it really helps out. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on my next school project. Who knows what it'll be. You can check me out on Instagram for behind the scenes, little sneak peeks of what the next project is, and other projects that I don't end up filming will be up there. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.